Call the 30th meeting of the Mayor and City Council to order, meeting in regular session on Monday, April 22nd, 2013. Please note, if you wish to be heard at this meeting, please sign the speaker list provided on the table at the side of the council chamber. The President has the right to limit the amount of time each speaker has for each agenda item. Each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak for each agenda item. We'll have the invocation led by Reverend Warren Litchfield, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Moe.
Would you join me in a moment of prayer? Almighty God, we gather this evening hour to conduct the business of this city. We offer our prayer for our mayor, for the president, for the members of the city council, and for all in authority. Grant unto them a sense of justice, strength, and wisdom as they perform their duties on behalf of all thy people. We commend this city, this county, this state, and this nation to thy merciful care, that being guided by thy divine providence, we may dwell secure in thy peace. We especially commend to your gracious care and keeping all the men and women of our armed forces at home and abroad, our fine rescue and our law enforcement community. Defend them day by day with your heavenly grace, strengthen them in their trials and temptations, give them courage to face the perils that beset them, and grant unto each a sense of your abiding presence wherever they may be. Remember those upon a bed of affliction, comfort those who mourn. In thy name we pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Laurel, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Crary?
Present.
Mr. Ricks?
Here.
Mr. Laz?
Here.
Ms. Nicholas?
Here.
President Smalls?
Here.
Mayor Moe?
Agenda item 6. Before we do that, let's go to agenda item 5. Approval of the minutes of the 28th meeting of March 25th and the 29th meeting of April 8th, which we will, which will defer
Thank you.
for our next meeting. So I'll entertain a motion, council, to approve the minutes for the March 23rd, 2013 meeting.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman McCrary,
I move to approve.
is there a second?
A second.
Thank you. Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Yes. Yes.
I believe it's the 25th.
I'm sorry, 25th, thank you.
Thank you. And I agree.
Yes.
I vote yes. We'll now move to agenda item 6, report of the mayor and city council, and I'll start with Councilwoman Nicholas. Do you? Okay. Let's redo that again. We'll move to agenda item 8. No, that's quite all right, Mayor. Second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1770, an ordinance to approve an MXT concept site plan number 833, West Side, School Board Property, Van Dusen Road. I've read the title into the record for the second reading. Mr. Brenda will read the file.
Thank you, Mr. President. MXT Conceptual Plan Number 833, Ordinance 1770, was filed on March 18th, 2013 by the State Highway Administration by the Maryland Department of Transportation, 707 North Calvert Street in Baltimore, Maryland, as property owner, Enstrit Matter Land LLC, 9102 Owens Drive, Manassas, Virginia. I'll make that Manassas Park, Virginia. 20111 for a conceptual site plan approval for Parcel A, also known as Van Dusen School Site, consisting of approximately 19.88 acres, to be incorporated into the overall development of West Side, which shall include the residential townhouses and commercial retail development. On March 21st, 2013, a request asking for comments was sent to Ms. Mary Lehman, Council Member of the Prince George's County Council, Ms. Rita Floyd, Clerk of the Prince George's County Council, the Maryland State Highway Administration, Prince George's County Health Department, the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, the Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation, the Washington Suburban Sanitary Commission, the Maryland Department of Planning, and Prince George's County Schools. Responses were received from the following agencies: the Prince George's County Department of Public Works and Transportation dated April 5th, which is part of the record, and the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission memorandum of March 28th, which reads as follows. We reviewed the MXT application number 833 for West Side School Board property on Van Dusen Road, which was filed to allow for the development of 80 residential units and retail uses. This development is not subject to Subtitle 27, which is the Prince George's County zoning ordinance. The property lies within the municipal boundaries of the city of Laurel. The subject 19.88 acre parcel was annexed into the city and placed in the city's MXT zone in September of 2012. The Prince George's County Planning Department reviewed the rezoning request and submitted the following comments: that the 2010 approved Subregion 1 Master Plan and Sectional Map Amendment recommends medium-density residential and commercial development for the subject property. The City of Laurel anticipates mixed-use development on the subject property, and the zone permits the type of development at densities similar to those permitted by the county zoning ordinance. We believe that these comments are still valid. A residential development with 80 townhouses and supportive retail uses are consistent with the master plan's recommendations. Sincerely, Fern Perrette, Planning Director. Also, on March 21st, 2013, a request asking for comments was sent to the Laurel Volunteer Fire Department, the Laurel Volunteer Rescue Squad, the City of Laurel Fire Marshal, City of Laurel Police Department, and the City of Laurel Department of Parks and Recreation, as well as the Department of Public Works. On March 25th, 2013, the Laurel Volunteer Fire Department provided a response which has been made a part of the official record. Response was also received on March 26th, 2013, from the Laurel Police Department stating the department had no comments. And on March 28, 2013, a response was received from the City of Laurel Department of Public Works, and that memorandum is also made part of the record. On March 25, 2013, a notice of the filing application was sent to all contiguous property owners. All return receipts were received with the exception of James Che, 6823 Iron Bridge Lane, and excuse me if I've misspelled this, Ganayu and Jabike Adewale, 6909 Iron Bridge Lane, Teresa Spikes Hamilton, 6907 Iron Bridge Lane, Katina Onley, 14310 Bonnet Lane, Teresa Williams, 14314 Bonnet Lane, and Barbara Waite, 14304 Bonnet Lane. File contains a certificate of publication verifying this application in public hearing was advertised as required by law in the April 4th and April 11th, 2013 editions of the Prince George's Sentinel. A memorandum from the City of Laurel Planning Commission to the Mayor and City Council dated April 15th, 2013 reads as follows. At the regular meeting of the City of Laurel Planning Commission held on April the 9th, 2013, the following action was taken on the subject application. On motion by Mrs. Bettman and seconded by Mr. Welford and carried on a roll call vote of all members present, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the concept plan of MXT application number 833 for the Van Dusen Road school site property / West Side as presented in the technical staff report to the Mayor and City Council. And that concludes the reading of the file, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Brindle. I'll open the public hearing at 7:09. I have Mr. Ed Gibbs signed up to speak. Good evening, Mr. Gibbs.
Yes, good evening, Mr. President, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Edward Gibbs, an attorney with offices in Largo, Maryland. I represent Strip Matter Land, LLC, which is the applicant in this case. And just bear with me here. Make sure everything was turned off. And Mr. Rob Strip Matter and Blake Esherick of Strip Matter Land are with me this evening. I would like to give a little bit of an overview, if that's permissible. Of course, the application that we're here on this evening is this 19.89 acres right here, which is what we now call the State Highway Administration parcel. And of course, the Strip Matter parcel...
Mr. Gibbs, would you mind just moving the mic just a bit closer?
Yes. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Now, of course, the Strip Matters originally owned 64 acres that went all the way down here into what is now the interchange area, which was rezoned to the MXT zone by the Prince George's County Council when they adopted the master plan and the sectional map amendment for the Subregion 1 planning area by adopting CR 58 of 2010. So all of that property was zoned to the MXT zone. The State Highway Administration had come to the strip matters and said, you know, as part of the construction that we're going to need to build the Conti Road interchange with I-95, we're going to have to take 25 acres of your property. And so we said, well, listen, you're going to take all of our access, and we're not going to be able to get out. And so that started the State Highway Administration looking at this parcel, which at that time was owned by the Prince George's County Board of Education. And so as part of the overall settlement agreement, which the State Highway arrived at with Prince George's County and Conterra, relative to the Conterra taking, this Board of Ed piece was transferred in fee simple to the State Highway Administration. The sole purpose of the State Highway Administration acquiring that parcel of land was to enable us to have access into our property. Now, as the process evolved, the State Highway Administration said, listen, why don't you just take this entire piece of property and we will do an acre for acre exchange for the usable area of this property as part of our satisfaction of fair market value compensation for the 25 acres that we were going to take from you down here. And with some hesitation, the strip matters agreed, because of course this property, the State Highway Administration parcel, was zoned in Prince George's County ROS, which is a low density residential classification. And then when the property was annexed into the city, both annexations occurred simultaneously. The State Highway Administration parcel was assigned the PI zone here in the city because that density was roughly similar to the ROS zone. We thereafter filed a conceptual site plan for the strip matter parcel that was left, which is just under 40 acres, and the State Highway Administration signed an application form for this conceptual site plan right here, which is what's before you this evening. They also signed, at the same time that we filed the conceptual site plan application for the 40 acres, they signed an application to rezone this property to the MXT zone. And I think that the letter that Mr. Brendel read into the record is really simply a logical follow-up from what is shown as Amendment Number 27 in CR 58, because back at the time that the Prince George's County Council adopted the Subregion 1 Master Plan and Sectional Map Amendment, and they left this property in the ROS zone, they did, however, in Amendment 27, indicate that if there was a land swap that had occurred, now this is, of course, long before the State Highway Administration entered into its agreement with Conterra and Prince George's County. But the County Council said if there was a land swap that occurred which allowed the strip matters to get a hold of this property in return for a swap for a park parcel, then it would be appropriate for this property to be zoned MXT. That language is in, again, Amendment 27 in CR 58 of 2010 from the Prince George's County Council. Of course, the actions of the State Highway Administration in subsequently acquiring this piece of property in order to give the strip matters access effectively abrogated any opportunity for a swap for parkland. However, the recommendation and the finding in Amendment 27 that this property would be appropriate for MXT zoning remained valid. And I think that the letter that was read, signed by Fern Perrette, the planning director for the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission, really is just a recognition of the language that appeared in CR 58 of 2010 as Amendment 27. So by your action in January of this year, this property was rezoned to the MXT zone. We could not have a conceptual site plan approved at the time the conceptual site plan for the larger strip matter parcel was approved, because that was occurring simultaneous with the rezoning application, and we had to get this rezoned first. So we came back in and refiled a conceptual site plan just for this 19.89 acres, which is what is before you this evening. That being said, The entire development is proposed as a unified mixed-use development which will have the name West Side. It will consist of here 500 multifamily residential units which are under contract to Mill Creek. This fuchsia colored area here, which is triangular in shape, is going to be the site of a hotel which is under contract at this moment, and of course we selected strategically the highest elevation for the hotel site so it had prominent visibility from Interstate 95. This light green area is proposed to be a maximum of 80 residential townhomes. And then the tan area will together support a maximum of 200,000 square feet of retail commercial uses. Now, again, only the portion of the conceptual site plan which deals with the State Highway Administration is before you this evening, but I wanted to explain how it all fits together. This road, which we've called West Side Boulevard, is coming in to provide us access off of what I now call Van Dusen Road, and that was the obligation and responsibility of the State Highway Administration to provide access to the strip matter parcel, because failing to do that would have necessitated the State Highway Administration condemning and compensating my client for the entirety of their property holdings, all 64 acres, not just the 25 down here. So that's pretty much the posture that we find ourselves in this evening. We are obviously at the appropriate time going to have to come in with a final site plan which will consider how this property will be laid out and how it will work with the larger strip matter parcel. But we do have this public road coming in, and we have recently actually met with your staff and have agreed that we're going to have a public road section coming from this circle straight to the west to provide access into the hotel site. So that's where we find ourselves. I would like to incorporate by reference all of the evidence and documentation that we submitted into the original conceptual site plan hearing, which was before you in January of 2013, which addresses the purposes of the MXT zone and the criteria for the approval of a conceptual site plan. I'd also like to incorporate the staff's analysis and their staff report because I think it's very thorough and very comprehensive. So with that being said, I'll be happy to respond to any questions, but that's sort of how it all fits together. The annexation of this property is envisioned in your master plan, and of course that occurred back in the fall of 2012. So we now have this zoned, the state highway parcel zoned MXT. We're seeking a conceptual site plan approval this evening. And of course the strip matter parcel, the 39 plus acres, was already zoned MXT and now has an approved conceptual site plan. It will be certainly addressed in extensive detail when we come in with our final site plan, but we did submit into the record an exhibit, a buffering exhibit, which we will implement when we come in with the final site plan. But effectively what we did is, in order not to have actual retail development to the east of the entrance road. This is the Wilshire Estates single-family detached subdivision to the east. And in order not to have retail development over in this area, we actually pushed this access road over to the east. But we do have a buffer plan where we're going to construct a berm and install extensive landscapings along that berm in order to provide a further buffer. Of course, Wilshire Estates itself has a tree conservation area within its subdivision along this north-south area that I'm tracing with the laser. So the buffering techniques will be analyzed in detail when the final plan comes in, assuming that we're successful this evening. So thank you very much, and again, I'll be happy to respond to any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. I have no one else signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing at 7:20. Council, you've heard Mr. Gibbs and you've heard Mr. Brindle's reading of the file. What's your pleasure?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Carreri.
I recommend that we approve ordinance number 1770.
Second?
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Any discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Ms. Crary,
Yes.
Mr. Ricks,
Aye.
Mr. Laz,
Yes.
Ms. Nicholas,
Yes.
President Smalls,
I vote yes.
Mayor Mo.
Thank you. We'll now go back to Agenda Item 6, Report of the Mayor and City Council, starting with Councilwoman Nicholas.
Thank you, Mr. President. My colleagues and I, we pretty much were attending most of the events together, but I really enjoyed the yard sale at the Laurel Armory, the community garden, and we also attended the installation of Leanne Hodge at the Oakland Presbyterian Church. That was a very nice ceremony. And Emancipation Park was very nice as well. I want to thank Mike Losky for just always his staff and just the wonderful teamwork that you all do. I thank you for that. I also want to thank Paul and his staff for the quick response. I had a constituent issue and you all resolved that within 2 days. So I thank you for that. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nicholas. Councilwoman Carreri.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition to the events that Ms. Nicholas mentioned just a moment ago, I attended the Civil War encampment activities at the American Legion. I'd like to thank Karen Lubadecki and Jim McSaney for their help in explaining the events as they were ongoing. I also stopped by the indoor yard sale, and it looked very busy. I hope that July 4th was successful in their fundraising attempts. I attended the groundbreaking for the homemaker makeover for Brent and Laverne Debman on Laurel Avenue. A lot of people came out, a lot of people coming together for the benefit of a neighbor. Great cause. Emancipation Fund Day was on the 18th, another event for our neighbors. Went very well, well attended. And I attended the electronics and shredding event down at Public Works on Saturday morning. And there were at least 130 citizens by 9 o'clock, and it opened at 8 o'clock, so that was a very good showing. Stopped by and chatted with neighbors down at Goody Lake for the cleanup on Saturday morning. Mr. Lotsky was being roasted at the time, so I was glad I could save him. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Councilwoman Carreri. Councilman Les.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mike, I want to thank you for wearing out my grandson at Emancipation Park. The right tools were there. You don't have to have anything fancy, just give them some blue blocks, and it'll wear them out. I want to congratulate Mr. David Floyd, art teacher and technology integration specialist at St. Mary of the Mills School. This year he was one of the 10 Golden Apple Award nominees from the Archdiocese of Washington. This is St. Mary's 5th year in a row that they've had one of their outstanding teachers receive this prestigious award and distinction. That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Councilman Ricks.
Thank you. It has been a busy 2 weeks. I also attended the invocation for Reverend Leanne Hodges at the Oakland Presbyterian. I want to congratulate her and welcome her to the community. I also attended the dedication of the new ground for the young man at 340 Laurel Avenue. I attended the Emancipation Park celebration. I attended the NAACP signing of the agreement with the City of Laurel. I am announcing that the Laurel Police Department DARE program will take off on April the 26th. They're going to host this year about 500 children over the period of about 2 weeks of different days for those different weeks. But nevertheless, we are prepared, and we will see that happen. I'm sure you'll see pictures of that. The Emergency Services and Transportation Committee is working on a number of issues. I'm going to bring them to the attention of the public that are listening tonight, and for anyone else that has any issues. We're looking at 4th and Montgomery Street again for the traffic that is moving through that intersection. We're looking again at solutions to the 100 block of Main Street and the tractor-trailer traffic down there. and we're looking at the train station and being prepared for when that construction takes place down there. So we're working with Public Works and the Police Department on all these projects, and we will keep on reporting until we have them solved. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Mayor Mo. Nope.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple things. Let me send get well wishes again to Frank Mills, also to Patsy Faddis, who's a member of our tree board. Spoke to Patsy today. She'll be home tomorrow. I wish him a speedy recovery. Also to Kay Sandel, who's a former employee, our former clerk for the city of Laurel. Wish her a happy birthday as well today. Did have the opportunity to attend the July 4th indoor yard sale, and I want to thank the committee for all their work and those that came out and helped supported that. The Laurel Historical Society's Civil War reenactment, again, I didn't get down at 2 o'clock there for the reenactment, but had the opportunity to stop by, well attended, and I thought it was just a wonderful affair for the community, and the community really did come out and support it as well as the July 4th bull roast that same evening. Did have the opportunity to attend the Reverend Hodges of Oakland's Presbyterian Church, her installation. I want to thank her for the invitation as well. The groundbreaking, as you heard, the Bethany Church home renovation on Laurel Avenue. Had the opportunity to attend and well attended by the community. And then the Community Fun Day at the Emancipation Park. I want to thank all the Park and Recs in particular, and the police department, as well as other city staff that were present during this event. This was our second event. It was well attended, probably about 125, 150 people, we think. Everybody enjoyed themselves, and again, I want to thank all of those that came out and participated, and again, remind those that if they see something, they need to say something. The Earth Day cleanup at Goody Park, I want to thank Mr. Lotsky and his staff as well, and those that came out to participate, and had the opportunity to attend the Maryland Conference of the International Society of Honored Women Educators over the weekend. I appreciate the invitation as well to bring greetings to them. The electronic and paper shredding event went very well. I don't know what the last numbers were, over 250. I don't know what their numbers were, Paul. What's 425. So well attended, and I want to thank Public Works, and actually saw Chief McLaughlin out there emptying boxes into the shredder. I'm not sure if they were his or others. So, but I want to thank all of those that participated in that as well. The want to acknowledge the council, members of the city council, because you heard members of the council talk about the events they've been to and the different events that I'm acknowledging here tonight. These things would not happen without city input or city employees and their hard work, but more importantly, it has to be funded. Somebody has to pay for that. This council has always been very supportive of community events and made sure that the funding is there, and I want to acknowledge that and thank them for that again. Don't want to belabor it, but the people of Boston, most know, had some tragedies last week, and we want to wish them the very, very best. We were in Boston last December, and a beautiful city. They've done an outstanding job there, and I think they'll bring that individual or others to justice. As well as, let me acknowledge the people of West Texas, and in particular, the firefighters that were killed and those members of the community. And Ms. Rao sent me something today. Even one of the members of the community was a member of the local city government there. So very community impact, and we want to wish them the very best. Tomorrow night is the Laurel Boys and Girls Club Task Force meeting here at the council chambers from 7 to 9. It'll also be on our local cable station if you wish to tune in. The first City Hall in the Park will be at Casula Point on Main Street at the pool on the 24th, next week, Wednesday the 24th, and that will start at 6:15, 6:30. The Friday, April the 26th, is our Arbor Day celebration and it'll be at the Avondale Mill picnic area, Riverfront Park at 10 o'clock. Public is invited. And the Laurel Police Department Prescription Drug Take Back Day, at Partnership Activity Center from 10 to 2. That is for anybody that may have any type of medicine, prescription, or otherwise that they want to turn in. And we did this about, I guess, Rich, about a year ago. So well attended, and want to thank the police department in particular, working with other agencies to put this on. Mr. President, I have a couple citations.
Okay.
You can come on down and do it. I'll get a star and present to you. I asked our council president to come up as we started last month. We have the Mayor's Star of Achievement Award. This is the City of Laurel, the Mayor and City Council, in particular acknowledging the many volunteers that we have on our commissions and on our committees that do it out of the goodness of their heart. They don't do it for any pay or any glory, but these are the people, the citizens, that really do make a difference and really do make a community. And we wanted to acknowledge that. And I want to thank council members for signing on to this program, but he didn't sign on to it because he was getting a Star of Achievement. But the first one I have is for Fred Smalls, our council president for the City of Laurel Planning Commission. Fred is the representative for the City Council on the Planning Commission, and I'm going to give you this one, and then I'm going to ask you to read the names, and we'll do like we did before to get a picture.
I'll make sure this goes in a very honored spot. I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. John Kish, Planning Commission. You can speak to them if you want, since you're a member. Let everybody else. I've been on the Planning Commission as long as I've been on the council, about 11 years. Mr. Kish was there when I arrived. So I know he's been around. He's a very, he's just sort of the anchor of the Planning Commission with the experience that he has. So, and I've had an opportunity to work with Mr. Kish over the years on other projects, so it's well deserved. Mr. G. Rick Wilson. Wilson, former councilman, and how do I describe Mr. Wilson's contribution to, briefly says, it's absolutely that, and the analytical side, I think, of the Planning Commission. Mr. William Welford. I had the pleasure of sitting next to Mr. Welford for a couple of years on the commission, and you know, some of the sidebars that he and I have had have contributed a lot to some of the advancement of some of the projects that we've had in the city. Monique Holland, here. Mitzi Bettman. Now, when I talk about analytical side, this is the practical side of the Planning Commission. Mitzi reads, as I do, everything, and she has no problem in commenting and asking a number of questions, but it's all for the betterment of the Commission and the work that's in front of us. And the chair of the Commission, who's not here tonight either, but Mr. Donald Welford. That's it.
I have two proclamations this evening. The first is for Arbor Day holiday. Was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our topsoil by, as well as by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for the wildlife. And whereas the City of Laurel has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting opportunities, whereas the City of Laurel Tree Board will plant 2 river birch trees at the Avondale Mill picnic area in the Riverfront Park, and now therefore I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2013 as Arbor Day in the City of Laurel, and encourage all citizens to support the efforts to care for our trees and wildlife and to support the city's community forestry program. And Mike? I'm going to present this to Mike Lotsky, who works with the tree board as well as the parks and does an outstanding job. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the Mayor mentioned, our Arbor Day celebration this year is this Friday at 10 a.m. at the Avondale Mill picnic area at Riverfront Park. This award comes because of the work of the administration. As you know, there's a monetary amount that is attached to qualifying for this each year, and through the budgets of Public Works and Parks and Recreation, we're able to achieve that amount and continue to plant and care for the trees in the community. Thank you.
The next proclamation, I couldn't figure out why the fire marshal was here this evening. Usually he's gone, like right at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, something like that. No, I know you are. Whereas dedicated members of the International Code Council use a governmental consensus process to bring together local, state, and federal officials with expertise in the building environment to create and implement the highest quality of codes to protect Americans in the buildings where they live, learn, work, and worship. Whereas the international codes, the most widely adopted building safety, energy, and fire prevention codes in the nation, are used by most U.S. cities, counties, and states. These modern building codes also include safeguards to protect the public from natural disasters such as hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, heavy winds, wildfires, earthquakes. And whereas the Building Safety Month is sponsored by the International Code Council to remind the public about the critical role of the community's largely unknown guardians to the public are local code enforcement officials who assume and make sure that we're safe and efficient in our livable buildings. And whereas Building Safety Month, code officials keep you safe. Did you get that? Building Safety Month, code officials keep you safe. The theme for Building Safety Month 2013 encourages all Americans to raise awareness of the importance of building safety, green, and buildings alike. And whereas each year, in observance of Building Safety Month, Americans are asked to consider projects to improve building safety and sustainability at home and in their communities, and to acknowledge the essential services provided to all of us by local, state, building departments, and federal agencies in protecting lives and property. And now, therefore, I, Craig A. Moe, the Mayor of the City of Laurel, do hereby proclaim May 2013 as Building Safety Month in the City of Laurel, and encourage all residents to join with their communities in preparation and preparedness in building safety. Dave Cope, our Fire Marshal.
Thank you, Mayor. The city, as everybody knows, the city's always been foremost as far as doing fire prevention and doing building construction. We probably got the strictest codes in Maryland as far as certain things that we require, but everything we do is we do it for the safety. And residential sprinklers, as you know, we're the first one that ever required us to put them in. And like our new one right now is smoke detectors. We require people to put in 10-year smoke detectors if they're installed. So we're always on the forefront. And Mayor, thank you for supporting us, and thank you.
when you go to all the schools and visit, I want you to read that proclamation as well. And I had bigger fun.
That's Marty's job. I just got to do it.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll now move to Agenda Item 7, General Public Hearing. I'll open a general public hearing at 7:41. I have no one signed up to speak for the general public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:41. Agenda Item 9 is the second public hearing with possible action on Resolution Number 3-13, a resolution to make the Laurel Crime Line a city organization rather than a privately operated committee. I read the title into the record for the second reading. I'll open a public hearing at 7:41. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Seeing no one, I'll close the general public hearing at 7:41, and I'm hesitating because the clock hasn't moved. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President, I move for the adoption of Resolution 3-13.
Thank you, Councilman Ricks. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilman Les. Council, any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Rao, please call the roll.
Aye.
Yes.
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 I vote yes.
I'll concur.
Agenda item 10 is the second public hearing with possible action on ordinance number 1759, an ordinance to amend the operating budget of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland for the fiscal year July 1, 2012 through June 30, 2013. I read the title into the record for the second reading. I'll open a public hearing at 7:42. I have no one signed up to speak on this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak? I think, Michelle? Okay. I will then close the public hearing at 7:43. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. President,
Councilman Les?
move for the adoption of ordinance number 1759, an ordinance to amend the operating budget of the Mayor and City Council of Laurel, Maryland for the fiscal year July 1, 2012 through June 30, 2013.
Thank you, Councilman Les. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman Crary. Any discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Rao, please call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
I vote yes. That concludes our agenda. Is there any other business to come before the Mayor and City Council? Seeing none, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
If I'd ask you to put that on when it's your turn to talk. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the first meeting of the Laurel Boys and Girls Club Task Force. I'm glad everybody can make it. I think we have a couple of members that aren't here yet, but they can join us in progress. I think everybody's been getting my email. I've been driving y'all nuts with the emails, so I apologize for that. Just find it's the easiest way. Mr. Brown has been nice enough to send a lot of the stuff in soft copy, and we'll make that part of the record. You also have it in your books. Kind of the thoughts with the books are your books. You can do whatever you want with them. If you want to leave them, you can leave them. If you want to take them with you, you can do that. And we'll each meeting, as we get new exhibits, new documentation, the city will run off the copies, and you can shove them in a spot to keep yourself organized. Hey, Mike, how you doing? So with that, I'd like to, again, formally welcome everybody that's watching on cable TV, and thank you all again for serving on this committee. It's an important agenda item, and I think I want to applaud the leadership of both the Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors and the Mayor and City Council for causing this to occur. I think we all have the same goal in mind. I think everybody's had a chance to see the resolution, so we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we get to that, I'd like to just go around and have everybody introduce themselves, say a little bit about yourself, whatever you'd like to share, just, do that, just to get the introductions out of the way. I'll just start real quick. Rick Wilson, I was a one-term wonder city councilman back in the dark ages in 2002. Served with Mr. Sarich proudly in those days. I did one term on the council. Prior to that, I had spent a lot of time working on various city things. I was a parent involved in the club when my kids were both little. They were involved in many activities at the club, so the club is near and dear to my heart, and I think it's near and dear to this community. And I'm just happy to be a part of this, try to run our meetings as efficiently as we can. We have a lot of work to get through, so my goal is to serve you guys and to make these as efficient forums as possible. So if I could turn it over to my vice chair.
Monique Holland.
Now we got to do this.
Okay. Monique Holland. I've been in finance and commercial real estate for over 25 years. I was interested in serving when the mayor called me because things that interest children, activities of children is very important to me. I have been very active my entire life in my kids' schools. PTA president, and for a number of years, vice president, treasurer, secretary, in any capacity to help children. And I also grew up in an environment where these types of Boys and Girls Clubs and the YMCA were available activities to me, so that is also important to me.
Thank you.
Good evening, Marcellus Shepard. Owner of TV and Productions, local business on Main Street, 401 Main Street. We are an audiovisual consulting, production, videography company. I've worked with the Laurel Boys and Girls Club with the football program. I was a coach for about 7 years or so. My children also came up through the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm a resident here in Laurel as well. Love Laurel. Here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Bob DiPietro. I have a consultant company. I have been since 1986. I've built about 25 million square feet of retail and office space and residential space throughout the continental United States. I'm a former council member, former mayor here in the city. Have a lot of history with the building back in the 70s and 80s, and the mayor called and I said, okay, I'd be happy to help out.
I'm Craig Frederick, and I run Fred Frederick Chrysler Jeep Dodge in Laurel. Been in business 50-some years. Lived in this town my whole life, since I was 6 months old. I was a Boys and Girls Club member when I was 8. I went to 7th grade at the Laurel, at the annex down there. And when the mayor asked me to participate, I obliged.
I'm Mickey Fink, and I grew up here in Laurel as well since I was very, very young. I'm a nurse at the Laurel Regional Hospital, and my children also participated in some of the activities in Laurel Boys and Girls Club, and I'm happy to be a part of this.
Hi, I'm Gloria Arnold. My husband was president of the Boys and Girls Club for a number of years. Back in the 80s, he's been involved with the club since 1959 until our youngest one no longer was old enough to be in the club. I have been a transplant Laurel now for 25 years, and my background is I have been a business owner, and I'm currently the Director of Member Services and Operations for the largest Chamber of Commerce in Montgomery County. I also sit on nonprofit boards and have a background in finance. And when Mayor Moe asked, I said this would be great.
Hello, my name is Adrian Russo. I am currently a volunteer at the Laurel Boys and Girls Club. And I grew up through the club in the 70s and early 80s before graduating and coming back to the club, volunteering as a coaches of just about all the sports. Actually, the athletic director currently, and wear a lot of hats, from maintenance, cleaning floors, and doing whatever needs to be done. I'm a longtime resident currently, and I have kids and now grandkids that are coming up through the club. So I have a lot invested in this community and the club, and plan on being here until I'm finished, and hopefully my boys will take over where I leave off. So our main objective in our family is to lead by example, so that it's a normality to volunteer and make a difference.
My name is Lionel Francis. I'm currently the owner of the Wellness for Life Fitness Center at the Garden Ice House. My kids grew up with the club, and I also spent 3 years as president of the club. So this is very dear to me, and I'm glad to help.
Thank you, Lionel. My name is Mike Sarich. As Rick indicated, I had the real honor of serving with him. When he says one-term wonder, it's because he was such a wonder for his years on the council. Honored to be here, work for Mr. Brown, who's the president of the club, and happy to do anything I can to help in this effort. Thank you.
Michelle Saylor, I'm the Director of Budget and Personnel Services for the City of Laurel. I've been with the city employment for 18 years, 13 of which I've been the Director of the department. We provide all the financial administration and personnel administration for the city.
I'm Christy Mills, City Administrator. I've been City Administrator for 11 years now, and prior to that I had worked for the city for a long time. I have a combined total of 43 years with the City of Laurel, and as City Administrator I'm responsible to the Mayor for the day-to-day operations of the city.
Good evening. Mike Lasky, Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Laurel. Been a city employee for 37 years. I know I don't look that old, right? But, but I'm happy to be here in an advisory role.
I'm Jennifer Carmen. I am the administrative support for the meetings. I'm the office manager for Parks and Recreation. I've been with the city for 15 years, 10 of those as a part-time auxiliary employee.
Appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank the city and the cable staff for arranging this for us. The office doing a lot of the behind-the-scenes work. Really important. I want to thank Mr. Brown. Big lift is on him. I realize that. Told Mr. Brown that this is folks, unsung folks behind the screen over here that came out on the next day to do cable for us. Let everybody know Channel 12 or 71, or you can stream it over the internet. I sent a note to my 2 grown children to watch Dad tonight. Both wrote back, no thanks. So I just wanted to thank everybody that's done that. as we're getting started, and, I wanted to introduce one other person that's not here, Mr. Frank Anastasio. He helps run the Laurel Mirror and Glass. He's a young man, recent graduate, thinks he wants to go to law school. But I've invited Frank to be our staff, so he's off, I don't know, drinking Guinness in Ireland, of all places. But as soon as he returns, he'll miss our first 2 meetings, but he'll be instrumental towards the end as we compile our report, because I'm getting too old for that, so I need fresh young legs. So I've asked Frank to sit in, take notes, work with the city staff, and then we'll use him as a senior counsel for the staff. And it's a good chance, as Mr. Rousseau said, to try to get the young folks involved, right? We all have that obligation to find the next set of folks that are going to take our place. So Frank will be joining us at our 3rd meeting, and you'll see him. You might have seen him on some of the emails to date, so he's been trying to help out. He seems to be drunk since he left the country, so I haven't heard a word from him since he left. So we got the welcomes done. We've got the introductions done. I just want to take a moment just so we're all on the same page for goals. So we are a creature of the city by a city ordinance, and everybody, I think, has seen the ordinance, what the ordinance is asking us to do. So, in our final report, I think, we have a duty by the 1st of July to create a series of findings and recommendations, and they're annotated. I won't read them to you, but they're annotated in the ordinance of what the mayor and city council are asking us to provide them, and also back to the club board of directors. So that's our charter. Try to do that the best we can. There will be times, I'm sure, where we'll have questions, we'll have better ideas, but we are a fact-finding body, right? We don't have an evangelical mission, right? You with me? Right? Our job's not to tell anybody how to lead their lives. It's just, this is what we think. So we kind of sit in that way. And I just want to open that up for questions. If anybody is got a different thought, that's fine. I'd like to get that out on the table if there's anybody that generally, the ordinance is what we've been asked to do. Everybody okay with that? I've got general head nods around. The other thing I'd like to talk about is we're going to have some way to conduct our business. In the city council, we kind of followed Robert's Rules of Order just as a way to conduct our business. So I'd like to at least offer that we would follow Robert's Rules of Order. And with that, I'd like somebody to make a motion that says we will conduct our business under Robert's Rules of Order. And a second. Anybody in opposition to that? So we carry that by acclamation. We have to set a quorum to be able to operate. Roberts is silent on that. We can set any quorum we want. There's 11 of us. I'm sure that we will not all be able to make every meeting. So I'd like to, what do you guys think should be a quorum that we can conduct business? What's a reasonable quorum? Got 8, 7? 8's good? Okay, somebody make a motion that we'll set our quorum at 8? Okay. Got a motion and a second. Anybody in opposition to that at 8? Okay, so that carries. So we'll try to use Roberts. We don't have to get silly about it. But what that means in effect is that we address the comments, we speak in order, we try to conduct business in a reasonable way. One is so that anybody watching us can kind of figure out what's going on and that we have some movement. I don't think we'll need a ton of formal votes. Towards the end we will, but if there's ever a time when we want to take a vote on something, we certainly, it's anybody's opportunity to make a motion and ask for a vote. So we'll just leave that open to the will of the group. That's reasonable to everybody. Okay. I hope everybody's had a chance to look through this agenda. What you see here is kind of a way of moving through an approach, right? And we can vary this. I throw this out as a draft. We had 6 nights that we could get this room. So kind of the thinking that Monique and I had, and once the city got us the rooms, is what can we do with 2 hours, because I don't think anybody wants to sit here for more than 2 hours. 2 hours over 6 nights to get through the breadth of material. There's one night that's not on there, and I was going to let Mr. Brown handle this later on, is I'd like everybody that hasn't had a chance, I know many of the folks that are a part of the board of directors don't need this, but any of the other folks that want a tour of the club, we'd like to schedule that, but not on a Tuesday night, right? So some other night than when we're meeting, but we can handle that. So we're talking about 6 nights. As you see, the first night is an overview of the club, and the second night is, we were asked in the ordinance to take a look at youth groups across the city, you know, kind of the fabric of what are all the youth programs across the city. So we've started to invite people to come on that Tuesday night. That's next Tuesday night. If anybody here has a group that they would want to let Mr. Lotsky know, it's anybody come. What we said is sports programs, academic programs, you know, any kind of programs. I tried to set kind of the requirement to Mr. Lotsky that it wasn't something you had to pay for. So if it's, you know, June Lee's Taekwondo, that's a different thing, right? But, you know, anything that's provided as a community thing where maybe it's a small fee, but you know what I mean, kind of like the way the club runs. So those kinds of things. So next Tuesday night is an opportunity for those groups to come and tell us about their program, and you'll see the questions there. Right? What are your programs? Who are your people? Who are you serving? What are you trying to do? And how do you pay for it? Right? To kind of fill in the gaps to what we understand as youth programs in Laurel. And it can be the greater Laurel area. So that's the second night that I'm proposing. You'll notice that every night we offer a general public hearing at the end, the last few minutes. That does 2 things for us. One is it gives us an opportunity, an important opportunity to take input from the community. And 2, it gives us a little bit of a time buffer. Right, so if we tend to go long or we start asking a lot of questions, we've got a little bit of slack in the program. But if we know there are community people that want to come, and if they call the chair and say, hey, I'm going to need some time, I mean, within reason, we will accommodate any community input. The session 3 is where we start getting into the details now. So 2 sessions, the 3rd and the 4th, are to dig deep into operations, finances, those kinds of things. I broke it up, and I'll leave this, you know, we can change this around. I said, let's talk about finances kind of at the top level, programs, operations, the way Mr. Brown has explained it, programs, operations, and facilities. And I saved the facilities discussion, which I know is terribly important, to session 4, because I thought we'd need time there. And you see the kind of questions that, you know, we would hope to be able to at least investigate. The 5th night is kind of the future. Right, so the mandate we have from the Mayor and City Council and the Board of Directors is, what's the future of the club? So my way of thinking about this is, that's the club's opportunity to say, here's my business plan. Here's what I'd like to do. If I could do anything, here's what I'd like to do. So to lay out the future, and however that story wants to be told. But then we, as this body, would sit and ask questions about that, poke and prod at it, and say, is that, because the language in the ordinance is pretty specific. Is it a viable future? And then the last night is really a work session for us to gather up all the findings and recommendations as we go, and to throw them into buckets. And then what we will do in between is, before we bring those back to you on that last night, would be to try to rack and stack those in some sort of a reasonable way. We'll try our best. And then bring that back, and then this group in a work session would go, hey, we need to reword that, we need to reword this, let's change the order, that's the same as that. You know, that kind of thing, where we kind of get that shaped. And then my idea, since we are under a timeline, is that we would vote at that point, that would be the findings of the club. You know, and under Robert's rules, it would be a majority. We can always add, and I would like to have an opportunity to talk about this. There are going to be minority opinions, and I think those are valid. So I think it's perfectly acceptable under my way of looking at this for us to include a minority opinion in our report that says, hey, the majority didn't vote for this, but there might be some merit here in this minority idea. So I would encourage us all to take advantage of that. We include that into the record. We vote on the package, and then we transmit that to the Board of Directors and to the Mayor and City Council. So that's the 6 nights. I'll shut up for a moment and take your questions or comments or
The only comment is on your meeting 3, your time at the end needs to be changed.
Did I cut and paste something wrong? Oh, my fault. Typo. So that's really supposed to be 8:30 to 9. Sorry. I just washed my hands and I can't do a thing with it. Anything else, anybody? Are we missing something? That's what I'm more worried about. Are there pieces of this review that don't fit into these buckets?
Yeah, I think with us opening the sessions to the public, that we may want to even have a suggestion box or something, that if they can't get their questions in that 30-minute time frame, maybe they can just put anonymous suggestions in a box for us to maybe look over and entertain.
I'm fine with that. I'm just trying to get through a process. So let me offer a process. So either the club can collect those, or if people want to drop them off, would it be okay to drop them off at Parks and Rec? Anytime Parks and Rec is open? Or they're certainly welcome to send an email that says something like, I have a suggestion, and I'd like this to be considered. If that works for you?
Yes.
So I just need a process?
Absolutely.
Or they can send them to any one of us, and we can offer them up?
Yeah, I
Okay.
just think that there's probably a few people in the community that could probably come up with something that we didn't even think of.
Amen. Amen. That's all good. You know, like anything else that's anonymous, that brings some, I'd put it this way, I would give more weight to anything that somebody's willing to put their name on.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah.
if they want to send them in anonymously, I'm fine with it. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea.
I guess the only question I had to that is then where would we fit in the discussion of those? Because if we run out of time.
So we'll bring them in the next meeting, right, at the top of the next meeting.
Okay.
So anything we've gotten from staff, from the club, or from anonymous stuff, then it'll be my job, our job, to gather those up and offer those to the entire group at the next possible meeting we could. If that's okay? If everybody's suited with that?
Okay.
So if there's, I'll give you all a chance to look that over. If there's anything you'd like to adjust, and then I'd like to entertain a motion just so we can always reopen this. As we get into this and we need more days, we need more time, we need to adjust this, but we got to have some kind of a roadmap right now. So that's what I'm kind of looking to do.
Rick, just one quick question. For session 3, is that where you anticipate talking about county and state support?
So you see the questions that I'd be happy to add, delete. Yeah, so the first one is, the session 3 is the finances.
Right.
And that's describe all the funding, the in-kind, the grants, the gifts, all of that. So this is current status.
Right.
I think in the future, if there is additional new monies, new programs, new funding sources, I think that might be more appropriate for the future.
Okay.
So this is kind of a retrospective look, in my opinion, in kind of current ops.
Right.
And then session 4 would be the one on, specifically on the facility, just because I think in a couple of our pre-meetings, that certainly is a major issue.
For sure.
For the club.
It's just, it's in the attachment to the resolution, so I just want to make sure that we addressed everything. And I think you did a great job in addressing all this.
Okay, so we'll make sure that we in session 5, which is the future, that anybody that wants to bring up, potential funding source. I think we have to we can't take the personal opinion. I don't think we can take the future in a vacuum, right?
Right.
It's a story. What's the future? All the pieces that the club and the board are going to need to get to where they think they want to go. So it's one thing to say we need state or county or whatever funding, but there's a package there,
right?
There's a story to be told. Make sense?
Absolutely.
Any others? So I got a motion to adopt. Do I have a second? Second. Got multiple seconds. Anybody in opposition? We have got that. What I'd like to do right now is then open this up to any questions or any things that I've been doing a lot of talking. So I'd like to offer to anybody who would like the floor to make a statement or set this out before we get into the next section. Anybody want to add expectations, something not addressed? Trying to turn off the noisemaker here. If there is nothing, I guess we can proceed. Everybody okay? At the hour mark, around 8 o'clock, if it's appropriate, I'd recommend we take about a 5 or 8 minute recess for the older males in the group. So we'll be sure to do that. And somebody remind me if I forget. So with that, let me turn the floor over to Mr. Brown. And Mr. Brown, at this point, if you'd come to the mic, and I'd like you to introduce anybody you'd like to introduce, ex officio members or anybody else, the floor is yours. We discussed kind of, do an overview of the club. And however you would like to conduct that is up to you. And I'd like to, if it's okay with you, you let us know when it's appropriate to ask questions. So you can either tell the story and then open it to questions, or you can open it to questions as you go.
Testing.
Should be on. If you give your name and address for the record.
My name is Levitt Brown. I reside at 7114 Old Sandy Spring Road. That's located in Laurel, Maryland, 20707. I'm president of the Laurel Boys and Girls Club. I've been president since 2005. I actually came down to the club in 2004 under the direction of then Mayor Frank Casula and Mary Miller, who was in charge at that time of the Boys and Girls Club. Got there, and my first mission was to write grants. Right, 2004. When I got there, I had didn't realize what I was going to see down there as the Boys and Girls Clubs, because I was raised in Boys and Girls Clubs for over 30 years. My mother actually ran the clubs, and we've been to Boys and Girls Clubs all over the country. And my brother, he actually worked out at Atlanta field house for Boys and Girls Club of America. He's now in the military. There's 6 of us. All of us came through the club. We're all doing well. The first club I ever went to was number 11, which is located up on Martin Luther King Avenue. I was born in Washington, D.C., in Berry Farms, which is a housing project there. So I've seen what clubs do. So when I got down to the club, I can't tell you how disappointed I was to see the conditions of the club, and also the way the programs were being ran, and it was a mess. And I would have welcomed to have a task force of this size to come down there with me, because I know we'd be a lot further than we are today. In fact, in 2005, when I got there, I had asked for a task force at that point, and the Laurel leader and Joe Murkison took lead in that, and they actually documented what I saw. The conditions were horrible, especially for me to see that, being a firefighter for over 16 years, to see a facility in that condition. I just couldn't believe it. The bathrooms were horrible. They actually had black bags over the toilets and face bowls, and kids were using the bathroom outside, or they wait till they get home. So it just was unbelievable. So what I did was I looked into the finances, all the programs, and it needed major changes. Went to the first board meeting, and at that board meeting I seen a bunch of commissioners running the program, and I knew at that point that had to change. You had to put people on the board that actually didn't have a specific sport in mind, and that's the way the club was being ran at that point. They fired the executive director at the first January meeting that I went to, and you know, I fought it vividly because I know as a club of that magnitude, that size, you need an executive director. But they didn't listen. They got rid of them, and what they did, they put those responsibilities on me, and I took them on. My parents raised us as kids that will take challenges, and believe me, the club has been a challenge for me, and that's why it's so exciting to see a group of people like yourselves in front of me that are actually going to be able to listen to the story and see the things that have happened down at that facility. The club's mission is to actually partnership with the community, with the greater Laurel community, and it's to provide recreational and educational programs for families and youth. So the club is different in aspect to some of the Boys and Girls Clubs I've been raised in. Because what this club has to do in order to provide its programs, say for example its after-school program, it has to partnership with another nonprofit in order to provide that. And that's what they do. They do nothing but partnerships down there so that they can provide these programs. A club that size, you're looking at probably about $1.75 million to run a club like that. When you look at our budget, you're going to see it's like from $370,000 to $400,000 depending. And the reason why it's able to work is those hardworking volunteers that they have down there and the partnerships that they have created at the club.
So could you, if you could, we discussed some of the questions. Could you kind of walk through? What's that?
Too tall for this.
It's all right. It'll pick you up. If you could walk through, if you can give us a sense of the club, how it's incorporated, who's on the board of directors, what programs you work, can you walk us through that?
The board is made up of people like Mike Sarich, former city council, former mayor, Adrian Russo, and myself. It's made up of mainly of City of Laurel residents.
But formally in the Articles of Incorporation, I mean, who makes up your board?
You
So
mean
who
how
makes
many
decisions?
people?
Yeah. How many I just want you to get it on the record. Who and
the
how
board?
many
The
and
board makes the decision.
How do you? So
what we do? We have meetings, and then stuff is presented to us, and then we make a decision at that point. So the board of directors makes the decisions.
And the board is comprised of how many people?
Currently, there's 9, but we can have up to 12.
So how many people are formally a member of the board today? 3?
Right here. What do you mean formally?
Well, whatever your articles say, I'm just trying to get a sense of, as an entity, right, you have a board.
Right.
So who's on your board?
Levitt Brown, I'm the president. Mike Sarich is the vice president. Lori Russo is the treasurer. Justice Johnson, director. Darielle Dunstan, director. Conrad Samuels, director.
Okay, so
Peter O'Reilly, director.
Okay. So when the corporation makes decisions, does it require a formal vote of the board?
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And how often does the board meet?
We meet quarterly, but as of late, we've been meeting monthly. And then we also have what we call an advisory board, which is made up of the nonprofits and the people that actually use our facility. They're required to be on the advisory board.
Okay. Can you walk us through the formal programs that you have underway?
We have a community service program, which is the program that brings in court-ordered folks. They actually come from everywhere, Howard County, United States, courthouse down in the district, Howard County, Montgomery County, Anne Arundel. What they do is they send us court-ordered people, whether they had a speeding ticket. It could be a police officer, it could be a firefighter, it could be a lawyer. They send us all sorts of people. And what we do is we use their talents to do things at the club. They don't have any talents, then they do janitorial work. We also have a community service program where we give kids the hours for their school requirements. And we partner with Pilates, Laurel High School, Eisenhower, I believe it's Faith Baptist. Faith Baptist. So yeah, it's a few schools.
So, other programs, sports programs?
Then we do what we call capacity for the nonprofits. Like for example, AKA, they come in and they do health fairs, food drives. We also have the Girl Scouts. They just actually was at the club this weekend with over 200 folks. The Boy Scouts.
But those aren't programs that you're running. Those are
They're programs that we partnership with.
So what does partner mean in that capacity?
Partner mean we provide them the facility.
Okay.
To use the facility, so those folks are participants of the club.
Okay. So anybody that uses your facility is a partner of the club?
Correct.
And a member?
Certain groups, like for example, the Girl Scouts are there. They have 5 events there. So they have to partner with the club in order to have those events there. We don't charge them anything to use our facility. Same thing with the Boy Scouts.
Okay.
Those are participants of the club. They rely on anyone that benefits from the club is a participant of the club.
But just for clarification, not like not if someone comes and rents the club for one use, they're not considered members. You know, so if you rent the Phelps Center for a dance, it's not as if those people are members. But people that are using it on a continuing basis are certainly part of the overall participants in the penumbra of the Boys and Girls Club.
I'm with you.
Is the participant automatically a member of the club?
The club has no members, and see, and that's been when I first got to the club. That is the first thing that I looked at. I looked at the what a membership is. Like for me, when I was a member of number 11, I paid $25 to be a member of that club. So what that meant is that I could play football, I could play basketball, I could play baseball, I could play any sport. At the club, a kid pays $75 to play football. He can go somewhere else. That's all he gets, $75 to play football. So that kid is no different than someone coming to the club like the Girl Scouts are doing. These people are participants of the club. And one of my goals is that the club become a membership club. So what they do is they pay for a membership, and now that kid can play those different sports. Because what's going on now is the way the clubs are ran in Prince George's County, first of all, they're sports only, and they pay the highest fees in the country. So today I live in Laurel, but my vision is to deal with all the way that all these clubs are ran. There are no members of the Boys and Girls Club. They are participants. So what we're trying to do is become membership based. So anyone, to answer your question, anyone that benefits from the club is a participant of the club.
So if I could, just make sure that when we talk about what might be versus what is, okay? So I want to make sure we keep those clear. So today, to answer Mr. Frederick's question, what is the definition of a member of the club?
There is no member.
There are no members of the club?
No, sir. They're participants of the club.
So if you wrote a grant and you wanted to say how many youth would benefit from this, whatever activity you're writing about, what number do you put, 0?
No, what the grant asks you, because I write grants, I've been writing for years, what the grants ask you is how many people do you serve? How many do you serve? Right. And so when I write a grant, I can write down that I serve Mount St. Mary's of the Mills because they use our facility. I could say Laurel High School because they do Laurel grad night there, because if it's not for us, there's no grad night. If it's not for us, Mount St. Mary's of the Mills does not have a facility to teach do their PE classes. So when I write a grant, I write the participants. And that's why when you look at the club, it's different than other Boys and Girls Clubs around the country, because people keep questioning me, asking me, what is your membership? Where do your membership come from? That's why I'm glad we're here today, because now you're going to find out that the numbers that I sent you was 1,193, because I went through and took care of the duplicates. Though that's the sports program. If you look at the other programs, the other participants, that number is 5,575. So the sports part is small compared to what that club actually does, but it's doing its mission, which is to provide for youth and family.
That answer you, Mr. President?
Well, I had a question about the participants. So what makes, for example, I got the list. I received the list and my name's on the list as a participant. So what makes me a participant of the club?
Your name is on the list for the last 3 or 4 year list. You're not on the current list. You're not on the 2012 list. You're on the list. I gave you 2 lists. One list because you want to know who was there before 2012. There's 12,000 something folks on that other list. Okay? So that list there tells you in the last 3 years how many participants have participated at the club in those 3 years. That's how many participants. Because again, like you just said, I'm not there anymore, right? You're not there anymore, but you participated at the club 3 years ago. So that counts, but in 2012, I used what we have now today, which is 1,193. You were a participant at the club, at least your kid was.
So if my kid is a participant in a program, then I'm automatically as a parent a participant?
Not unless you volunteer.
Okay, so.
And when Lionel was there, they did the FIP. So you couldn't really tell who volunteered and who didn't. Now we can tell who volunteered and who didn't at the club.
Yeah, thank you.
Family involvement program. That means to participate in the program, your kids participate, your parents have to be volunteer.
And you know, and another example I want to give you is with Maryland National Park and Planning. Maryland National Park and Planning didn't have a facility last year to run their summer camp. They contacted everybody, and they finally contacted the club. So those 70 kids, I believe it was, the camp was held at the club. That's what the Laurel Boys and Girls Clubs does. Boys and Girls Clubs around the country, they would have never taken on that task. That's why I say this club is different in aspect because it's following its mission. It's different than some clubs, but those kids are participants. You're telling me that we can't count those kids, right? But this is what I'm saying. This is what's being said in the community, that you can't count those kids, but we can because they're participants. And in order for those kids to participate at the club, they all had to have been Prince George County residents because that's what Maryland National Park and Planning requires. But you don't see those numbers as far as county residents on our data.
Question. I go to your fact sheet, to just so I can clarify. You in your documents you presented us says membership/participant. So what you're saying is scratch out the membership, you don't have membership.
What I'm saying is because it's described in this community as memberships, as members. That's why you have what you have there, is because that's what's constantly described in this community. When I get phone calls.
No, I understand, but what you're saying is you don't have members, you have participants.
We have.
You want to go to membership. So
exactly.
It's now,
and that's going to be in the business plan.
So this section really is about participants. Now, when Maryland National Capital Park and Planning came and did summer camp last year, did they pay you?
No.
You gave them the building free?
Absolutely.
And the kids paid no tuition in that program?
they paid Maryland National Park and Planning, but they paid an affordable rate, which was $40 for the entire summer. We support that you can bring that type of camp to our club, because when we ran the camp, we paid, the kids paid $100 a week, the ones that could afford it. So we welcome that.
Planning using your facilities did never pay rent.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, you talked about St. Mary's. Are they participants?
Yes, they are.
They're there? Do they pay you rent?
They pay $1,923 a month, and they pay the electricity for the Phelps Center, but they are participants, because if it's not for the club, they can't do PE. So they're benefiting from being at the club. They are participants of the club. You pay $75 to play football, right? To play at the club. Does that make you not a participant of the club because you paid $75? It's no difference with St. Mary's.
Mr. Wilson, if I may, in the fact sheet, it's clearly labeled as membership/participants. So I'm not sure, you know.
We're trying to figure out, I think what the question was, is which is it?
Well, it's clearly both. It's membership slash.
It's not membership.
There's no members.
Okay.
Well, it's a common. It's a different.
I appreciate the distinction.
Terminology.
I think the distinction is
So
that some
people
people would
understand.
call that as members, other people would call that participants.
Right.
But I think now we're getting to the nut of the issue, which is,
Right. It's
which
still
is
a
fine,
car.
right?
There are no members.
There are participants under this model.
It's a Chevy
Correct
Dodge.
in
It's still a
history,
car.
So we take membership out, they're participants.
You can't do that, because it
confusing.
comes down to what people's perception are. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I get the calls all the time about what is your membership. I don't have time to sit there and try to explain to them that, wait a minute, no, it's participant. But if you look at my strategic plan, you ask, if you look
I
at the
understand.
strategic plan, you will see in the strategic plan that I wrote back in 2005 that we wanted to do membership. We want to do a membership.
Okay, we're good. So if I could you walk through the programs that you offer? And if I could get you to tell me, because this doesn't fit my mental model, but that's because I'm wrong, not you. When you describe the program, I was trying to come up with a rule of motion here. Is it something you execute with your program dollars, or are you providing space? And that's all I'd ask you, is to make sure we all understand. So as an example, you're not running a Girls and Boy Scouts program.
No.
You're providing a facility for them.
Correct.
What was the one? Community service program, just as an example, the court-ordered one. Does the court pay you to do that?
No, the court doesn't pay us, but again, that labor
You use the labor.
Exactly.
Okay, but you execute, in other words, there's some obvious supervision required of that.
We pay a person. That is our only staff person.
So you have, so in other words, under that definition, that program you're executing, you with me?
Sure, because we use operational funds.
Whereas
Right.
the Boys Girl Scouts, you're not executing that program. So as you walk through this, if you could just let us know which it is.
Okay.
What other go ahead.
Excuse me, I have one just observation, I guess, on your listing here, participants served, this paper you sent, okay, you have down here the county elections, that's 1,000, that's 20% pretty much of your grand total. When you write grants and all that, does anybody ever ask for a breakdown of your participants and the programs they participate in, or?
No, the only thing that they care about is that you're serving those participants.
Okay, and my other question, I'm sorry, is on the top here, you wrote that the club has always maintained the majority of its beneficiaries, but additionally, each group is required to have a member of their organization on the club's advisory board. But I look at your list of advisory boards, and it's not, so the Boys and Girls Club and those, what differentiates them from not having to have somebody on your advisory board versus the others?
For example, the churches. The churches are there, they pay rent there. They have to have somebody on the board.
Okay, I guess I'm just trying to clarify the guidelines between participants and how the participants are categorized.
Right, with the people that rent the facility, such as the church, St. Mary's of the Mills, those folks have to have people on the advisory board, because what happens is that, what happens with that is the scheduling. of the facility, because not only does St. Mary's use our Phelps Center, they use the gym, they use the classrooms. It's a variety of things.
So if they pay, they have to have somebody on the advisory board, is that the rule of thumb?
Right, and if they miss 3 meetings, they come off of it. They come off the board, and now that hurts them because of the events.
Can't use the facility?
No, they can use the facility, but for example, they now aren't at the meeting, so they don't know, like, when the gray room is being rented, the blue room, or the gym. They're not in the
Do
loop.
they have to come back every time and pretty much stake their spot?
What they have to do is if they want to use the gym, they have to contact a certain person. If they want to use the Phelps Center, they have to contact a certain person.
Thank you.
And can I add one piece to it? When we talk about the members / participants, depending on your view of what you feel you are in this community, for me, I would hope that I'm never considered a participant. I would hope that I would be considered a member of this club after 35 years of serving this facility.
But you can
So-
see my confusion.
No, I understand that, but I just know that.
He's a member.
Yeah, but
I'm a member.
well, I mean, if it's only one, then I'll start with one. But my concern is, and if you want to see, if you start telling people that they're not members of this fraternity, and even coach down there on the end, I'm sure when he was coaching and was a vital part of our programs, he didn't feel like a participant. He felt like when he put that Laurel jersey on, or that coach's shirt on, he felt like he was a member and a representative of
Mr.
that
Russo,
club.
as much as I agree with you at one level of me, at an emotional level,
No,
I'm with
no,
you.
no, no, no.
But
It's
we're
not
trying to
the
get to the
emotional-
business end of,
And
what's the definition?
I agree. I'm trying to get to it too. But I think the fact that he put member / participant was to cater to people like myself that felt like we were members. Now, on this board, if we want to call it strictly participants, that's fine.
We can call it Fred and Wilma. What
Okay.
we gotta get is, what is it, how do you all define it?
Okay.
That's all we're trying to get to,
Okay.
right? I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but.
No, no,
but
no,
We've
it's
been
not
asked to look at a
feelings.
business.
Right.
And we're trying to understand what constitutes that group of folk, whatever we want to call them, that would say, if you went and asked them,
Right.
are you a member? They
Right.
would say either yes or no.
Right, so if you went to a football practice and you asked a football parent, or you asked a football player, are you a member of the Boys and Girls Club? They're probably gonna say, I grew up playing soccer there and everything else, I'm a member of the Boys and Girls Club. But from the board standpoint, what we look towards, membership is sort of an aspirational kind of concept, and it means something different, I think, to the members of the board than it might necessarily mean to other people. So what we're talking about there is, I think, encapsulated and highlighted perfectly in Mr. Brown's presentation, that membership is you pay one time, $25, $50, however low we can drive that number to be, and then you're a member, and because of that membership, you're able to participate in all the
We're
sports.
not there today.
Right, that's what I'm saying, but I think that's where the confusion comes in, because for us as a board, that's an aspirational thing that we're working towards.
So today, would we say that this piece of paper that we were provided, it's called participants served at the top, that captures under that definition of participants? Because, I'm going to have exception with that, because 1,000 people
fair
that
enough.
come and vote, I don't think they'd consider themselves either one, right? I use the bathroom at McDonald's a lot, but I am not a member. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? So, we got to see a play. I appreciate that
Fair
that's a
enough, yeah.
community
They're
service.
not a member, but they came to that club. And when I write grants, it comes down to participant, who benefited from
Amen.
coming to that club, and
Amen.
and this is what I use.
So I
when I
think
write the grants.
I think we're in probably violent agreement. We're trying to get to a business definition, I believe, of what's membership.
Right.
Right, a business definition, which I'm with you, Mr. Rousseau. There's a whole lot wrapped up into that common word called membership. I'm with
And it's
you.
important for grantors to understand that elections are held there and roughly how many people are coming there to be
It's just
served
when it
there.
gets aggregated that I think it gets misleading.
I would take issue with that and say it's not misleading at all. I would say that if you're a funder and you want to know how many people are utilizing that facility, if it's clearly delineated what it is.
Well, that's
and-
different
and
than
what
being
the service
aggregated.
provided is, well, it's individualized and then aggregated at the bottom. That's fair enough.
Saying, if you give them all of this and they read through
Right.
it, then that's
Yeah,
fine.
right,
But if somebody
exactly.
looks at.
But on the flip side, if your goal is to get to membership,
Right.
The 1,000 voters are never paying membership to go vote.
That's not the point. The point is when you're sending out information to grantors.
Because if you let me finish
Sure.
my statement. Mr. Brown has pointed out that this is part of the perception problem. And if we only have participants, for now, let's stick with participants. When we go to explain this as a task force, we have to explain, today they're participants, their goal is to go to membership-based. And then delineate throughout this book what is a member and what's not a member. A voter is not a member.
Sure.
You know, and I would argue with participant would be a strong pass-through. I kind of agree with the chairman. I go to McDonald's too, but I'm not a stakeholder. So I think part of the goal of the task force is, as we understand these things, we try to clear up as much misinformation and misperceptions that are out in the public. So, I mean, tonight, if I left here, then I can explain to somebody they don't have members, they have participants. They want to go to members, that's their goal. So that I'm saying the same thing you're saying. And then you don't have people out here going, how many members do you have? They don't have that yet. That's the goal they wish to achieve. They want to put a price to it, and if you pay that price, you have these eligible games. That's what they're trying to achieve. That's the only point I was making when I brought it up, so that even on the task force, if we're going to sit here and say there aren't any members, then don't use the word members. Stay with participants, and then we'll follow the logic as this thing changes.
Under this understanding of the word participant, we're cool with it.
Fair enough.
It's great, it's fine.
So just one clarification point, and I'll move off to participants, because I read this a couple of times. Participant, providing resources and services, and so if 4 members of my family are on the list as participants, but we haven't, and we've been in the gym maybe 5 times a year to sit through an hour basketball game, I'm counted as each of us are counted as a participant because either my son or daughter play basketball and me and my husband watch, so.
Again, I go back to the current list. Okay, you're not on the current list. The
Yeah, I know, there were 2
2012
lists.
list.
I'm on the
Right.
I'm on the
You're
other
on the list that was during the time that you benefited from the club.
Well, the other list was from 2009 forward.
You're saying you weren't in the club
No.
in what year were you there?
It was prior to 2009. My son, he last played through the basketball program, I think in 2007. He played for an organization that ran some of their tournaments there from 2008, 2009. But he wasn't, so I guess, I'm confused, so I guess he's a participant.
Exactly.
But my daughter, she last was in the program, in the soccer program in 2003. So
That list did not go back to 2003.
well, her name's on it, and she has never been, she was in 2009, she was in college.
I don't know how she got on that list because we didn't go with that group, ActiveNet, until what, like 2007? You didn't have ActiveNet then.
No.
So I don't know how she got on that list.
Okay.
Mr. Brown, can I just ask one question, because you did the history and all? I know back in the 80s, the Laurel Boys and Girls Club was considered the largest in Prince George's County, and they touted that they had over 5,000 members. And kids then, even if they played a sport, were considered members. Do you know when that changed, that they stopped counting them as members and changed them into participants?
It changed when I got there in 2005, 2004, because I was raised in Boys and Girls Clubs. So I know what a member of a club is.
So the club that you were associated with, the membership structure was different than the Boys and Girls Club.
Right, and
So therefore, it got changed into participants.
right, because what we're trying to do, we're trying to go to a membership club. But again, when I write grantors don't care whether you put members or participants. But I put participants because it shows the true benefits that we're providing to the community.
If I could call, if it's okay with everybody, we take a short recess, and then when we come back after the recess, if we could walk through the programs as best you can. If that's all right with everybody, take a short 5-minute, 6-minute recess.
Did we take too much time?
No, not at all.
My daughter
Are we ready, Mr. Sarich? If we can come back to order, thank you all. In the interest of everybody's time and my aging bones after sitting in meetings for all day, that's what I get to do for a living. So it's work somebody's got to do. So I think that the floor is open to you. If you could walk through the programs that you've got, or however you'd like to do it. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I did send a sheet out to everybody about the service provided. Some of the programs that we are hands-on with, one of them is the Metro Youth Basketball League. That's in the spring. We run that in the spring, and the reason why we did that, there was no basketball program during the spring. When I moved here in '97, I started my own youth group because of that. So we do run that in the spring, and teams come from everywhere throughout the DMV. And then we also run a Metro Youth Summer Basketball League. Same thing. We have boxing, and we also have martial arts.
Now, those are run by the club.
No,
Do you
they're
pay
not
your
ran by the club, but what happens is a kid would pay us, and then they would be in that program. Like, for example, Cherry Lane Boxing, that organization is at the club, but the kids register with us, and then they would go to Cherry Lane or either Crawford's Fitness.
Okay. In the Laurel, if you're just walking down this,
Yeah, I'm
so
just
we
going
can
down the list. The chess club, we don't run that. Okay, and we
Private
don't
facility.
right, and we don't charge that group, but our kids are in that, and they're in that free of charge. We've helped the Senior Friendship Club out several occasions, whether it be a reunion or they didn't have that facility for a while before they went to the new one. The Alpha Kappa, they do the food drives and the health fairs for us. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts just provide the facility. Lady Ballers Fall Basketball Program, because we have a problem in getting girls in the club. We invited this group to come in, and they run a girls program and additionally boys during the fall.
So if you could, just so that we could keep it straight in our minds, is this one where you're just providing a facility, or is it more like the Cherry Lane boxing?
We provide the facility.
So it's just the facility?
Right, and then our teams don't have to, our kids don't have to pay to be in that league.
Okay. Because you're providing a facility, the quid pro
Correct.
quo is that, okay.
Lewisdale Boys and Girls Club.
Wait a minute, you skipped College Park.
Oh, College Park and Lewisdale, they bring kids to our league, to our winter league.
Okay.
We do run that. Prince George's County elections, that's an estimate. So, I don't know if it's 1,000, but that's just a guess that amount of people voted that poll. NAACP, they have meetings there. We don't charge them for the facility. Transitional Zone is a program that we partnership with to provide after-school programs where they pick the kids up from school. They bring them to the club. They tutor them. They do homework help for them, and then we do the recreational thing for them. There's currently 38 kids in that program, and there's 40 kids on the waiting list because we can't afford to provide transportation and those things for them.
So
And we are the only Boys and Girls Club in the county that does that.
So just real quick, just so we all get it straight in our head, what's the nature of the relationship between the club and the transitional zone?
Transitional Zone provides the volunteer staffing. Mr. Egan's, he was just awarded for what he does as a senior educator, his wife. And then Pilati sends kids over, and so does Laurel High School to read.
Like tutors and stuff?
To read and stuff like that. University of Maryland. It's a big old partnership.
So in this case, it's a facility type of arrangement? You provide the facility, or is it more of substantial?
No, the kids actually pay to be in that program if they can afford it.
And they pay you, or
they pay the club?
Okay,
Right,
so that's a club program.
Right, and if they can't afford it, they're, like there's 17 kids that currently aren't paying. out of 38.
And you provide the transportation too? You pay for the transportation?
Correct.
You pick them up at their schools?
We pick them up at Laurel. Well, we will pick them up at Laurel Elementary, Scotchtown, Bond Mill. Is it Bond Mill? Bond Mill, Deerfield Run. We pick the kids up from Laurel High School, Eisenhower, and Oakland's. It's Scotchtown. Then we provide volunteer opportunities for a number of folks. I mean, there's 50, football coaches. We provide volunteer for basketball, for just assortment of things, administrations. Prince Today Academy, they're going to be in the club till May. We had some difficulties with that group. They're a private school. Basically, we allowed them to use our facility, our annex, in partnership with they would allow our kids from the city to go to their school at reduced or no cost. And it's a private school, but they struggled because a lot of the kids weren't paying them. So that organization is struggling at this point, and we don't believe they're going to survive. Pilates, whenever they call, gym space for them. They use the annex as a classroom for over 10 years. So
And they're paying rent for those.
they're gone. They don't pay rent when they use our facility. They pay them to use the annex.
They don't currently pay to
No,
anytime
they don't
come
pay.
over?
No, they don't pay anything to use our facility now. St. Mary's of the Mills, you see that. That's a group that does pay rent and utilities. But again, they benefit from the facility. They also have a church group that comes in there, and we don't charge them for that. It's an Hispanic group where they use the gray room. I think it's like, 40 people that come in there on Saturdays and Sundays. Chesapeake Charter School. Chesapeake Charter School has been using our gym since their inception. I see now they're ready to get their own gym. So hopefully they allow us to do the same. Laurel High School, as you know, grad night. The only way they're able to do grad night is to use the club. I put a number of 173 on there, but I'm hoping that more kids than that graduate from the school. So that's a guesstimate. Faith Baptist Church Academy, that's the one over there by the firehouse. They use our facility. They use our gym space. And again, we don't charge them to use the facility. Helping Youth Grow, that's a mentoring program. They take kids everywhere. We provide the gray room for them at no charge. The Laurel Fire Program, 60 kids are in that program. Those are kids that can't make the basketball teams, whether it be AAU or their school teams. They play at the club and they get to face those those teams that they weren't able to make.
So that's a sports program. That's not, Laurel Fire Program is a Laurel Fire Program basketball program.
But this program is not listed under the membership, under what you want to call the membership or the sports.
That's okay. I just want to make sure
Right.
it's a basketball program.
Correct.
Okay.
And in that group, we have 2 12 and unders, 14 and under, 2 14s, and a 16 and under, and then a high school bracket. The Laurel High School reunion, they held that at the club. WSSC meeting, they was looking for places, couldn't find anyone that would allow them to meet in their facility, so they had a community meeting
They got
at the
that
club.
Taj Mahal over there, and they don't have a place for a
They
meeting?
had it at the club.
That's a crime.
Well, I think the issue was they had a start and stop time. So they didn't meet the criteria. They wanted to end the meeting at 8 o'clock and shut the building down, where I extended the time for them to use our facility.
So this is a social event that had WSSC folks involved?
Well, it wasn't social. I think it was concerns, the community concern.
Oh, okay, okay.
Where they got to speak on matters of.
Nope, got it, got it.
The East Coast Prep School Athletic Conference, they have their tournament at the club every year. The club has established a prep team. Basically, that's kids that couldn't graduate on time, or what they call fifth-year seniors. And then also kids that have graduated. What this does, this gives those kids an opportunity to be evaluated by colleges. And through that program, over 40 kids are now going to college out of that program. Youth basketball groups, there's plenty of those that contact us on a daily basis to use the facility for practice. And if it's available, we'll allow them to use it. And again, that's at no charge. And you can see where I mentioned St. Mary's of the Mills Church on Saturday evenings. Then we have 1, 2, 3, 4 churches that are actually at the club. And they're that membership is just, for those churches, is just huge. And
Again, no
constant
charge.
use. No, they pay rent. New Life Church pays $800 a month. Crossway Church pays $600 a month. Spread the Word pays $4. And then AME Church just works with the club to do food drives and things like that. And then the Toastmasters are there at no charge, but our kids aren't charged to go through Toastmasters. And then the most memorable event for us is the 1,100 turkeys, where we partnership with the with the NBA to give out almost 1,100 turkeys in this community. And then I believe I sent you a breakdown of the total youth served in our sports program, which is 1,193. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you out a breakdown of where those kids come from.
Yeah, I don't have that. Do I have that?
Yeah, I sent the participant thing out. Yeah.
Was it a spreadsheet?
Yeah, but
Okay,
right. But
okay, so if you can
Yeah.
annotate that and
yeah,
send
what
it back
I
to us.
did, I broke it out. I broke it out for you, so I'll be sending it to you. Got rid of the duplicates, and what I did was there was 1,193. I didn't do the one with 12,000. I just don't have that much patience to sit there and try to get rid of duplicates for 12,000 people. But I did do the current year, and what I did was I broke it down, and the reason why I did that was because what that will show you is I use that as a base as to where the total participants for the club come from. And that breakdown will show you that 80% of the participants for the Laurel Boys and Girls Club come from Prince George's County. 15% come from Howard County. 0.03% come from Montgomery, and 0.02 comes from Anne Arundel. And then when you want to break it down further for the city of Laurel, it's 42% of those participants come from the city of Laurel.
From the PG County?
20707.
Yeah, which is all PG County. Or, excuse me, Prince George County. I don't want Bridget to yell at me.
And that's a breakdown of the participants at the club.
Okay, so if you would, if you take a note and get us that spreadsheet and make sure that we can include it in the public record.
Correct.
That's the reason I didn't send it to the staff, because I wasn't sure. But at least the collection, I don't want to put anybody's phone number or addresses in.
No, I wouldn't do that. And then I know how Monique had asked for the kids that I waive. I just didn't feel comfortable in putting that business
as long
out
as
in the
we have an
street.
aggregate,
Right.
that would probably be a useful thing to put in the record.
Okay.
Again, my goal here is to build a record that then we have. Could I ask you one more favor?
Sure.
And again, I know you're a volunteer and don't have staff. If you could go through this participants served in some way, and I don't trust my notes as you were talking, if you could come up with another column that would annotate in some way or put it in a note or something, and maybe it's a few note, some way of letting a reader know that, kind of just like you just did for us, either it's a facility deal or it's the kind of partnership deal. You got multiple different arrangements, all fine.
Right.
But I just want to make sure for the public record that anybody else reading this that doesn't have the benefit of your voiceover will understand. So you can do it with little notes and you put the explanation, however it works best. But if you could capture that. I think I've got some notes, but I'm sure I've gotten it wrong.
And I just want to make it clear for the record that the club's mission is to work in partnership with the community. And that's why whenever any of these groups contact us, we help them, you know, because that's what the mission tells us to do. And since I've been there, I've made sure that this club abides by that mission. And that's what we've done.
That's perfectly fine. So the sports programs will have brought out, could you just, I know I'm putting you on the spot, could you just walk through the kind of the big chunks of the sports program as you can recall it? And I know we won't hold you to it, you might.
You mean,
so we have a basketball program, you have a.
Yes, we have winter basketball. Okay, it's called intramural basketball. Those numbers are the ones that are counted in the 1,193. We also have wrestling. We also have.
Now these are programs you
at the club. Yeah,
runs.
right. We also have spring football and football.
What's the
spring football is when they actually teach the kids the stances and how to tackle and stuff like that. And then tackle rolls over after spring.
So then fall, like kind of regular old fall football.
Is it called fall? Is it
It's in the fall.
Right. Yeah, so yeah, fall.
Fall registration.
And then we have soccer. That's done in the summer. That's done in the spring. And yeah, everything is both co-ed. And then we have spring, fall, and summer for soccer. We also have boxing, martial arts, and then we have cheerleading. We have cheerleading, and then we just started track program. And then we have winter basketball. And the majority of those programs are ran through the county. So the county oversees those programs for us.
So can you talk a little bit about that relationship so we can keep it?
Well, what happened with Prince George's County when I first got to the club in 2005, there was an issue with the kids with our mission. And basically, because we service the greater Laurel area, we have kids that come from outside the county. So we have people using trees as addresses so that those kids can participate. And when I got there, we changed all of that, but we had to leave the county league. That's changed. The county has changed their stance. So basically what's going on now is they're accepting our children because that's our mission. And we can't turn kids away. I mean, Boys and Girls Clubs, whether it be financial or where you live, we can't turn kids away. So they.
When you say you do this in cooperation with the county, can you describe that?
Well, they do soccer. We do soccer with them. They do football. We do football with them. In other words, they provide football for all the clubs in the county.
What does it mean to provide football?
They provide the referees. They provide the fields. They keep the scores. They take care of the registration. They run the league.
Okay.
Right.
So the club's role in that?
The club's role is to register the kids at the club, and then we are to make sure that they are who they say they are. And then we walk that down to the county and turn it over to them.
So you you collect a fee?
Yes, we do.
So you collect the fee and then you give that to the county executes the program?
Correct. And our kids pay $75 to play football. For the county, it's $30 to register with them. So they don't do it for free. There is a fee.
Can I ask you a question?
Turn on your mic.
For $75, what does that provide the child?
Equipment, a place to practice, games.
Helmet, pads,
everything.
pants, cleats?
Except for the stuff that touched their skin.
Huh.
So everything. But again, still, even with that, you're still the highest fee. Kids still in this county pay the highest fees of Boys and Girls Clubs in the entire country.
But-
So even with that fee,
I'm trying to understand. So you said $30 if you're the county and $75 from your club. I'm not the brightest bulb in the world. Why don't I just go register at the county?
because you got to go through the club. You have to go through the clubs. You can't just go register.
It's shared revenue, right? So there's an aspect of club operations, fields, all of the associated things, the equipment. We don't provide cleats, but
Yeah, because the county wouldn't give you a jersey.
right. So
And
there's
the county's
other-
not
I'm just
gonna-
trying to understand
Yeah.
who's doing what to who.
Right, the county fee is principally, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the county fee is principally for the coordination, refs, field, and making sure
So
that.
30
Laurel
of the
has somebody to play.
75 goes to the county?
Exactly.
Oh, I thought it was either or. I apologize.
No, we have to pay
So
that,
you collect 75,
and then we pay that 30.
you pay the 30 to the,
Right.
and the county provides the uniforms?
No,
No,
You
we
do?
provide.
we do.
For $45?
Out of the 45.
Correct.
Right,
We raise the money
yeah.
Okay.
to get it. We'll be coming to talk to you.
Jesus.
So if you could, for the programs you just described, so as an example, cheerleading, what's the nature of that business arrangement?
With cheerleading, they're not with the county. They basically cheer at the football games, the basketball games, and then they do stuff like the Main Street thing.
So when I show up and want a tutu, and I want to be a cheerleader, what do I get?
You pay $75 and you get a uniform,
And-
you get a place to practice, and those type of things.
And who are the coaches, and those are club
Those are volunteers.
volunteers that?
Everybody at the club's a volunteer,
Okay,
including me.
I get you. I get you. So for each of these programs, so boxing, is boxing that way?
They get provided the facility to box at.
Somebody coaching them?
Yeah, volunteers.
Okay, all volunteers. So the only one that's, I'm just trying to make sure that I can compare apples to apples. So football is a little different, because that's run in cooperation with the county, say it that way. Are there any others that are like that besides football? How about soccer?
Soccer, yes.
So how does soccer work? You pay $75, you give 30 to the county,
The club gets 30 to the county.
the club gives 30 to the county out of the 75.
Right.
And the same thing happens. But it's the club that's responsible for providing the volunteers.
Correct.
So the 30 is going to pay for officials and field taxes and all that kind of stuff, I assume.
Right.
Running, keeping the stats, and just like in the old travel baseball days, I guess, when my kids.
And they're fully staffed at the county level. I mean, they have the people that send out the emails. They have people that set up the league, the fields. They're fully staffed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the executive director's even paid.
Okay, so basketball, wrestling, spring football, fall football, soccer, boxing, martial arts, cheerleading, and track, anything else?
That's it. We, when I first got to the club, they did have baseball, but the club couldn't afford the baseball. So what we did, we partnered with Laurel Little League.
And when you say partner,
Pete was there. Well,
what's
what
the
we did
nature?
was we sent our kids to them. And initially, we helped them with securing the fields to practice on. Because legislation gives, and Monique knows this, legislation gives the Boys and Girls Clubs the right to the fields.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get to the business relationship. What's the business relationship?
We help them get fields.
So, right. So
We
if
help
they
them
come
secure
to
fields.
baseball, that we refer them to that.
Right, that was when they first started.
You don't collect fees for them?
No,
Okay, I just want to make sure I understand.
no. Back then, it was agreed that I believe that they paid $25 to play baseball. Club can't afford that. So that's why we partnered with them.
So so the baseball program is not counted in the 1,000?
No.
Okay, so out of,
Even though it's on our website,
I understand.
you can click baseball and it'll go to them, but it's not counted.
So this group, and again, I know you will get this in more detail, but this group adds up to about 1,000, what'd you say it was, 1,000?
1,193.
So 1,193 individuals or 1,193 athletes, you know what I mean? Because some kids may play multiple sports. Which is it?
We didn't count the doubles because even though a kid, like you say, if he plays baseball, or I mean, if he plays football,
So if he
he'd
play-
be doubled on that list. But we can't count him as, right?
I just
Because-
wanna know which
no,
way
I'm
it's
just, I'm
counted.
just trying to
I'm not making
explain
a
to you why
policy.
there's doubles on the list, and sometimes 4, because that kid may play 4 things, but we don't count him.
So the
as-
1,000 is individuals.
Correct.
So 1,000 addresses, if you will.
People, yeah.
People. And they may
Members.
play as many sports as humanly possible.
But you can only count them once.
I'm
That's
with
why I
you.
had to
just
go
wanna
through
make
the
sure we
list.
understand. So approximately 1,100, 1,200 children. What's the age span from, just so we kind of, what's the youngest?
It's 5 to 18, but we do accept some 4-year-olds.
So 5 to 18 approximately, and there's all those rules on when you turn 18 in the various sports.
We don't have that rule.
And I'd like to point something out. also.
Turn your mic on, please.
When you said 1,100 addresses, that wouldn't be correct.
I misspoke.
Okay, because there's, well, there are multiple. I mean, in my household alone, there's 3.
Well, what we're counting is children.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I mean, but it,
Three sports, they play 3 sports, we counted them once.
right.
What he's
right.
saying is that
I'm saying
in his family, he
address-wise,
has 3 kids.
there's 3 kids, but
So
only
those
one
3
address.
names will be listed with the same address,
Okay,
hopefully.
Approximately 5 to 18.
for now.
What's that?
Right, yeah, we mentioned wrestling.
So wrestling, though, is a club program.
Correct.
Under the definition of a club. So the club collects the fees and runs it and provides all the stuff one needs to provide, finds the volunteers to be coaches and finds the officials. How hard is it to blow the whistle and smack your hand on the mat? But that's all right.
No, actually, we pay for officials.
And actually, that's another thing that the county takes care of.
Oh,
So
wrestling
the-
is a county program?
Well, I mean, whatever league that they're in, sometimes they participate in county tournaments. I'm not even sure if the county
But it's not a
has-
county, it's not a county.
You're not
program.
paying the
He's been
county.
away a while, it's not a county program.
No, it's not, but what I'm saying is, when he just said, we have to provide the officials,
No, they're in a league.
they're in the league, so they're, whatever program that they're participating in, they pay a fee as well. They may not pay Prince George's County, fees, but they
But
pay the
that
league
comes out
fee.
of their fee for wrestling. You guys
Exactly.
pass that
For
through.
each player,
Correct, we pay for the league fee.
right.
So if they go to a tournament and there's a special fee for that tournament, then we cover that.
And they cover the officials and stuff.
Yeah.
All we have to do is provide the kid and
I'm
the
with you.
coaches.
How much is the fee for wrestling?
75.
So there's 1,193 individuals playing athletic events at the Boys and Girls Club.
Correct.
Which goes through Prince George's County as you're collecting the dues, they're running the program. The
The,
exceptions are the one we talked about, wrestling and cheerleading.
But
Right.
I think it's fair to say that they coordinate the different clubs together, you know, almost in terms of a confederation. But in terms of running them, our volunteers,
Yeah.
tireless volunteers, and who are commissioners and coaches, you know, wouldn't want to take away their credit for running the sports, because in my view, the commissioners and the parents and the volunteers.
But they're running the programs. I mean, they're the ones that are out there putting schedules together, coaching teams, coaching kids, so
But the
forth
county
and so on.
coordinates that, right?
the county don't, we coach the kids.
Right.
The coordination. Now, that 1,193 are all from 20707.
No, sir.
No.
961 of them are.
So that's what I wanted to clarify. So if you had a small percentage out of Montgomery County or Anne Arundel County, you're saying Prince George County now accepts them if they come through your system from another county?
80% Prince George's County, 15% Howard, and the rest is, you know, noise, if you will, you know, smaller numbers.
Okay.
And you'll provide that in whenever we get that spreadsheet.
Correct, yeah, as soon as I get home, I'll send it to you.
No, it's good, it's good. We got a week. I want to just take a moment and, first of all, thank you for that overview. And I know it's hard because what we're trying to do is, you know, get everybody's mental models going the same way, right? So we understand when you use a word like participant or member or whatever, so we all get it. I'm not making a value judgment. I just want to open it up to the task force here. Is there any other kind of broad areas that we want to go down in this more general overview that we haven't heard about yet? Any other questions, any other points of inquiry, any other things we can ask Mr. Brown?
Who in Prince George's County coordinates all that?
Calvin Massey.
And what department does he work in?
He's executive director of the Boys and Girls Club. He has
Prince
a board
George's
that
County?
right. Yeah, he has a board that oversees him.
So there is a Boys and Girls Club of Prince George's County, and they coordinate like the wrestling tournaments or the football tournaments or conferences, whatever the schedules. What's his name?
His name is Calvin Massey. And what he is, he's executive director.
He's not a county employee, correct?
No, he's
Boys and Girls Club
He's
employee.
I sit on that board. He works for us.
So he works for the Boys and Girls Club. Could you give us the corporate name of that entity?
It's called Prince George's County Boys and Girls Club Incorporated.
Has that always been that way from the very beginning?
Yes. Even when Lionel was there.
1960, 66, 68, 70?
No.
Is that the way it
60?
works?
No.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, Mr. Russo. I just want to make sure your mic's on.
There's a change since I've been there, because before they didn't accept anybody from outside.
Okay, I got you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frederick. Is there any other, Mr. Russo?
No, I was just gonna point out, I played in the 70s, and we were under their umbrella. So, and I played at Lanham before I came here to Laurel. And it was that way then, so.
You know, I got to admit, as a parent and as a coach, I never paid attention, right? They told me to show up, and here's a bunch of little kids, and, you know, but I had no real understanding of the business deal. Mrs. Fink, you got any question? Mrs. Arnold? Mr. Rousseau? Mr. Sarich? Frederick?
No, but I know at one point Laurel Boys and Girls Club was the largest. Are they in fact still the largest in PG County?
Yeah, there's 33 clubs in the county. 3 have buildings. We're one of them. Tacoma Park's the other. We are the largest Boys and Girls Club in the state of Maryland.
Gotta ask you to define how.
It's defined by, for example, Jackie Joyner, Kansas City. She has 45,000 square feet facility.
Oh, you meant
Right,
largest in terms
right.
of-
We have over 60,000 square feet. And if you want to look at participant-wise, we are the largest because the amount of participants that come through our club. Remember, as I told you before, right, that other Boys and Girls Clubs don't do what this club does.
Right.
You know, they don't bring in AKA to do food drives and NBA to do 1,100 turkeys and allow people to use their facilities like St. Mary's of the Mills and Pilates. They don't do that. So we by numbers, we are the largest. Most clubs service from 200 to 300 kids a day. And it's those same kids because they're members of the club. That's why if we had a membership here, we probably would service from 700 to 800 kids because we have South Laurel, which is in poor condition. And then we service the poorest part of the county, which is Whiskey Bottom in Howard County. So we have a lot of disadvantaged youth in this area. Now, Boys and Girls Clubs are for everybody, but our main focus, disadvantaged youth.
Right.
So that's why the prices are what they are, because it affords those type of people that are financially in trouble to have something to do, you know. And I sent all you guys a video on what Boys and Girls Clubs do, and I hope you watched it because the percentages are astounding, you know. And that's something that Laurel, this community, has a big opportunity to make a difference in the county.
Thank you. Let me just continue. Mr. DePietro?
Yeah,
Turn your mic on, or make sure it's on.
let me ask, and maybe this will dispel yet another rumor. There's a National Boys and Girls Club Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Then there are state boards, and then there are local boards that all filter down from this. Are you all a member of the Boys and Girls Clubs corporate, or are you recognized as a Boys and Girls Club as the National Boys and Girls Club is defined?
13% of the Boys and Girls Clubs in the United States are independent Boys and Girls Clubs. We're an independent club.
Okay.
We're a member of Prince George's County, which is our affiliate. That's who we're a member of. So to answer your question, no, we're not a member of the National. It doesn't benefit the club to be a member of the National. And one of the big reasons is this club will not be able to do its mission. Those two brothers that formed this club years back, they put that mission there. And we would not be able to fulfill that mission. We would not be able to provide our facility to the community. And that's what we are. We're a community organization. We wouldn't be able to do that.
Is
Boys
Prince
and
George
Girls Club
County
is youth only.
Is Prince George County an independent, or do they belong to this?
No, they're independent. All the clubs
They're
in
independent as well.
all the clubs in Prince George's County are independent. There's 33 of them, even the one that ain't. All of them are independent because we're
Including
affiliates.
the county. That's what I'm asking, the one you say we're affiliated with.
Prince George's County Boys and Girls Club is the Laurel Boys and Girls Club. We're Prince George's County Boys and Girls Club.
The subset of it. It's
Some of us are because this club went and got their 501c3, but some of the clubs that are part of Prince George's County, they use that county affiliate as their 501c3. We don't have to do that because we're chartered. Right.
Yeah, I mean, there is a national organization called the Boys and Girls Club
Of America.
Is Prince George County a part of that organization?
No, sir.
No.
Uh-uh.
So they're independent, you're independent, these are all independent Boys and Girls Clubs.
Yes.
They're not affiliated with the National Boys and Girls Club.
Correct.
Okay.
The way that you can tell is if it says Boys and Girls Club of Annapolis, that means they're Boys and Girls Club of America. If it says Laurel Boys and Girls Club, then you're not an affiliate. And it's because these clubs were formed around the same time as Boys and Girls Club of America. In fact, this club was in place before Boys and Girls Club of America.
No, not at this time.
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Brown, thank you so much I know it's hard to stand up there and do that, so I do appreciate it. I think we did leave one piece of this out, and we'd like to ask you to address it in our third meeting. We'll have another opportunity, which is kind of your organizing structure. I think it would be helpful, again, from a business look at this. So you guys are incorporated under 501(c)(3), you have lead members of the boards, you meet periodically, you have bylaws. If you've provided all that, then
Yes, I have.
what we'd like to do is at the beginning of that next, before we get into the finances, maybe we just get you to go through that so we can all ask questions about, what I want to understand is the corporate entity called the Laurel Boys and Girls Club, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we get that on the record. Again, I think it'll be enlightening just to understand how you all are thinking about it, and then we can move into the finances.
Okay.
So we got in the two meeting, or not the next meeting, but the one after that, is we get into the finances, and if we could ask you, according to the agenda, that we stick with what we're looking for is a balance sheet of what you are today, right?
Yeah, snapshot of what we have.
Yeah, so where have you come from? What do you have? We can talk about the future in another time, so if we could keep it to that I think would be the easiest way for us to work through this without getting confused.
Okay. I'll provide the current records.
Thank you for that.
You provided, I'm sorry, you provided the audits and all that documentation, correct?
That's not due until,
Okay.
Yeah.
but I'll get it to them way before
I just want to
that.
make sure we get that information and that we have an opportunity to walk our way through that, just so we all understand how it's done, because everybody comes in, trying to think of this in a particular way. So, thank you very much. At this point, if there's no other questions for Mr. Brown, I'd like to open up the public hearing at 8:47. Do we have anybody that would like to speak? If you could just give us your name and address and your affiliation for the record, and make sure your mic's on there.
Yeah, my name is Thomas Matthews. I live at 15016 Laurel Place, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. I've been a resident of Laurel for 52 years. I grew up in the African American community, the Laurel Grove. I'm hoping that, and I'm trusting and believing that when this group has finished their fact-finding, their information gathering, and whatever recommendation that it makes to the mayor and the city council, that the bottom line is it's about the kids. So the Boys and Girls Club, I came through the Boys and Girls Club. I remember going to McCullough Field, Emancipation Park, O.W. Fair, Laurel Elementary, the Armory. So the bottom line is whatever the final decision or whatever the recommendation is, that it's all about the kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Anybody have any questions, Mr. Matthews? Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
My name is Dennis Harrison, 10,000 Goose Pond Court, Laurel, Maryland. I've been a resident of Laurel ever since 1982, moved here from Florida. And my kids participated in the Laurel's Boys and Girls Club. And too, as Mr. Brown was saying, I'm glad to see this. And as I, excuse me, as I sit here tonight, it gives me a bit of hope and encouragement too, because people are actually asking questions. You're looking at a business model, you know, really putting things together, and that gives me encouragement that, you know, things are going to move forward, because Mr. Brown has put a lot of sweat, blood, tears, everything into this club, and along with Mr. Russo, I know. And I say to you, just you know, give the Boys and Girls Club a chance, because it really does help a lot of kids in the community. I used to bring a truckload of kids from my community there for basketball, football, for everything, and I used to gather the boys up and bring them in, and I know it really helps them out, and it has helped a lot of kids that I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sir, please come on up to the mic. Thank you. Appreciate you guys coming out.
Good evening. My name is Robert Crawford. I've been part of the Boys and Girls Club for about 25
I'm sorry for interrupting. You just give us your address.
8302 Greengrass Road, Laurel, Maryland. I've been part of the Boys and Girls Club for about 25 years. When Lionel was there, and when Levitt came in, I've seen the place come from almost collapsing to them holding it together with duct tape and the roof falling down, but they've still had people coming through there. They've serviced police officers, teachers, lawyers, doctors of the community. And that's without a whole lot of help from a lot of political people. It's been a lot of infighting, but the place is still service a lot of people. I've had young kids come in there that have been bullied. I've had who were so shy that couldn't even look at a person in the eye. But that person had the opportunity to come there and develop some confidence so that they could go out there and deal with society. So I think with a little bit of help, and I'm thinking the place is run for 20-something years without very little help. As soon as they took the casinos down and the money from the casinos stopped flowing through there, I don't know what was going on with the money from the casinos, that's when the deterioration started really happening. But it still survived and it still serviced the community. And I look at I came from Greenwood, South Carolina. I grew up in the rec centers. I came up in the YMCA. And when I came to this place, the Boys and Girls Club, I said, hi, this is the YMCA that I grew up in. And it could be just as well, just as good or better than any other place in the world with the proper support. And that's financial. It's a great facility, great space, great programs. I just hope to see it survive. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Go ahead, sir.
Miguel Lambert, 17021 Melbourne Drive, Laurel, Maryland, 20707. In comparison to the last three speakers, I'm relatively new to the neighborhood. I've been here for about 12 years now. Have two young boys, 4 and 6, and my wife and I, we spend a lot of time trying to look for, places, where to send our kids to just play sports. We've had to go as far as out to Howard County, but we, recently found the Boys and Girls Club, and just all the programs. We recently just participated in basketball, had a fantastic time there, both for our kids, and we are taking a big interest in trying to support the program. I think Mr. Brown here has done an exceptional job in what he's been doing, given the facility, given the amount of funding that he currently has. And we want to do whatever we can do as caring and interested neighborhood parents to support the program. We, as I guess everyone here is a parent or maybe a parent, and you always ask yourself kind of, what do you want your kids to do after school? And if you really look around, you think about it, there aren't that many things for your kids to do to stay out of trouble. And this is just a wonderful place where the kids can go after school. I mean, I've been to a couple of board meetings, and they start telling me about the numbers, how much it costs to go. And I said, boy, it's amazing how you can do that at those kind of dollars. I mean, we have to understand that they're providing a service for a lot of people that just can't afford it. There are a lot of people here that will probably say, wow, $40 or $50, it's nothing. But there are a lot of people in our neighborhood, unfortunately, that just can't afford, bringing their kids to or giving them an after-school program. And I just want to thank Mr. Brown for everything that he does. And I mean, it's just amazing what you're doing with the amount of financial backing that you currently have. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. Appreciate the kind words. Anyone else? Anything that we forgot? I'm looking over at staff there. We okay? Any issues? Okay, I want to thank everybody. Especially I want to thank Mr. Brown. That's a tough thing to do, and I admire you to be able to do it. I want to thank the task force for patient question. I think it's important we understand what's going on, and then we can go from that. So if there's no other business before us, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Anybody in opposition? Thank you very much.